Hey, Phoebe. So it seems like we're a little behind with what we need to be doing with our Dust Bowl narrative. So I wanted to go through the brainstorm today and make sure that you guys are catching that. So first thing is you have a link to this narrative on your Google Classroom. So you guys can be submitting this through Google Classroom, but you also have the hard copy of this in paper from yesterday's class. What needs to be done by today is this entire brainstorm, as well as a plot mountain brainstorm for the events that happen in your story. So let's start with this. Remember that our task is that you have learned details about the Dust Bowl and how it affected people who lived there. This week, you will write a narrative from the perspective of someone living during the Dust Bowl. You will write from the perspective of either, and you need to choose one of these: a farmer with 3 kids, a 6-year-old boy or girl, or a cow. So right now, what I want you to do is circle your choice. Are you going to be a farmer with 3 kids, a 6-year-old boy or girl, or a cow? Great. Once you've made that choice, you're going to be filling this in with your ideas. So not the ideas from the exemplar, but your own narrative ideas. So starting with, what is your narrator's name? So remembering, if you're a farmer with 3 kids, your name would be very different than if you were a 6-year-old girl, and it would be very different than if you were a cow. So think about who your narrator is and give them a name. Next, you want to name any other characters that will be in your story. If you're a cow, who's your owner? If you're a farmer with 3 kids, who are your kids? If you're a 6-year-old girl or boy, are your parents involved, brothers and sisters? You need to give a name to every character that will be in your story. After you do that, you need to jot down one simile or one metaphor that you will use in your exposition. And remember, our exposition is the introduction, our first introduction to setting and characters, to describe the setting. Example: the thought of rain coming soon made me happy as a dog with a fresh bone. So think about a simile is using like or as to compare, whereas a metaphor just says something is something else. So instead of saying the made me happy as a dog, you would say I was a dog with a fresh bone thinking about the rain. So think about one simile using like or as or metaphor that you will use to describe the setting. Our next prompt says your narrative must use repetition. That means repeating something over and over. What word or phrase will you repeat throughout the narrative and why? So our example is keep praying, and our narrator is using that to show that your main character is hopeful and has faith. So what do you want your character to say over and over, and what do you want that to show about it? Number 5 says, what will the main conflict in your story be? Remember, a conflict is your problem, and it must be something about the Dust Bowl. So for example, if you're a farmer with 3 children, is it that your youngest child is sick, but the farm isn't bringing in enough money to get her help? Is it something to do with the rain not being able to come? If you're a cow, how would that affect you? So think about what your main conflict will be and write it for number 5. And then number 6, how will your main character or narrator solve the conflict? So how is that issue going to be solved? If the conflict is that the farmer's child is sick and the farm isn't bringing in enough money, then what does the farmer do to help his youngest child? Now, your plot mountain is blank on your paper. You need to draw in this mountain, and then you need to think about what is your setting and characters for exposition. What is the rising action that leads to your climax, your turning point in your story? What is your falling action? And then how will this be solved? So you can use all of your questions and answers from here to plot them on your mountain here. Once you've finished with your brainstorm and plot mountain, you can get started writing. Now, you can either start handwriting or logging into Google Classroom and start typing your answers. If you have any questions, raise your hand. We're at a voice level 0. Good luck.